Thanks for coming. So
This is Hannah, by the way, Hannah Berryman, for those of you that haven't met her. Go ahead, Hannah. I thought I'd introduce you.
Oh, thank
My
you.
great director here.
Oh, got some chairs. Two. No, we'll stick to this. Thank you. So I hope you all enjoyed the film, and obviously I'll just turn it over pretty quickly to questions. But I thought I'd first ask both Eileen and Bridget what made each of you decide to do it. Obviously it's different for both of you, so Eileen first, to hear how it happened.
Yeah, so what made me decide to do it, so I wrote the book way back when the pandemic hit. I had no intention of writing a book, but I'm busy, I'm traveling, and in March of 2020, when the pandemic hit, I had nothing to do. Although Bridget came home and worked from home a little bit, we pretty much had nothing to do, so I called my co-author, who's Jonathan Ward, had been asking me for years to write the book with him, and so I finally said, yep, I got time, let's do it. So we wrote the book. It was published at the end of 2021, and within like a month or so, I was contacted by Keith Haviland, who's standing up there in the back. He's our producer, and he said, I'd like to make a movie out of your book, and I was very flattered, and I thought that was cool, but I was like, I'm not ready for a movie, I don't think so. So months went by, I kept thinking about it. Keith asked again. I had to get permission from my husband, who's here in the front row, Pat Youngs, and he was okay with it. And of course Bridget and my son Luke, who's also here, and they were both okay with it. And then of course, because of all the problems my parents had, I thought, you know, that's going to be in the film, so I need my siblings to be okay with that, and they were. They're like, go for it, Eileen. So I think it was really me that had to crunch it through my mind, because it's kind of hard having your, I mean, it's a big project. It's the work, and then I want a little bit of risk, because you don't know what the final product is going to look like, but Hannah and her team, Keith, and they just did a great job with it. So I'm glad in the end that I said yes. And then Bridget.
Well, I'll turn it to you. So Bridget, obviously, it was, you know, between you and Luke, it was obviously a very different, as you heard at the end, Luke says, well, I was just young. It was like, not much to me, you know, it's a different time of life as a child. You know, Bridget saw a lot of it, more of it, and I knew she was an important part of the film. So tell me about your decision to make it, and also how that's been for you, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're a kid and growing up in Clear Lake, it's pretty normal, and like your parents just aren't that cool. But it's like being older now. It's like I really appreciate it's like your story, because it is the American dream. It's like being able to come, it's like Charlie said, from the other side of the tracks, and just like be the first woman to go to space. And it's like I have a ton of respect, like for you, now that I probably didn't for a little too long. But I think like the mission, but it's like communicating that is important, especially, you know, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but it's like putting your head down and doing the right thing, and you can get there.
I always tell people I had the two best jobs in the world. I was an astronaut and I was a parent. And I used to say mother, but now I say parent, because you got to include the guys in there too.
Well, especially Pat.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking as well, Bridget, is this was like, you shared a tough story of yours, you know, and I think people that screenings we've been to before have responded to both your own tough challenges growing up and yours, and maybe because we all have challenges. What made you decide to share that with us?
I mean, I think it's like every life is hard. It's like, you know, send them a Teams meeting and finish them off. But but you know, I think it's like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Bridget and I had talked about it beforehand. Like I told Bridget that Hannah wants to interview you, and it's totally up to you. You don't have to interview if you don't want to, but if you do, you know, you make the decision. So, and she said yes, and I'm glad, because she ended up being like the big star in the movie. And I don't know how Bridget was going to feel seeing like little baby, like there's little baby Bridget. And
I love that bit. That was the editor, by the way. James Gold, the editor, is a fantastic editor, and he scanned all of these millions of takes of archive and picked out these beautiful bits, including the themes like Pat always commenting on Eileen's hair and you know, your hair ready, and just these lovely Bridget just coming into focus with the fuzzy video, and it's moving, I think, isn't it? Because it's like, I can't even talk about it actually. It's just those big things of life, those big stages, and you know, as Bridget says, I agree with you, by the way. We all, you know, there's lots of challenges in life.
I used to tell Bridget that she was my stress reliever, because before she was born, I was like, we're working 24/7 all the time, and then after she was born, I come home, I'm like, I can't be working all the time, so I would take her out, park, stroller, read books, play, and I go, wow, this is kind of fun, and I like reading her books about, it actually made me a better commander, and I always tell people the best training I ever had to be a space shuttle commander was to be a parent, because you have to learn how to say no to people.
Should we turn it over to you guys? I was going to ask something else, but I think I'd see about when. Well, is there any just one thing before I do, which is I wanted to ask Bridget. You know, this is like a moment where the first woman today has gone on Artemis will be the first astronaut to see the moon, and you know, Eileen was a pioneer in that, her mum, and really whether you think things have changed for women in the workplace, really.
Oh, I mean, it's like I wasn't alive back then.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine that they have. I mean, it's not something that I have to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I grew up in the 60s, and I was in 4th grade when I learned that there was something called an astronaut. I was reading a magazine. There were no books on astronauts because it was so new, but I was reading a magazine about the Gemini astronauts, and I thought, these are the coolest guys I have ever heard of. I want to be just like them. And as a kid, it didn't bother me that there were no women. I didn't really process that, but as I got, like, in high school, I went, like, there's no women astronauts. I guess I can't do that. And it was kind of sad. So I decided I was going to be a math teacher because I liked math. And the Air Force opened flight training to women. We would have put more of it in the film, but we just didn't have a whole lot of, I didn't have a lot of records from that, but I was one of the first, I was in the first class of women to go through pilot training at my base in Oklahoma. 4 women, and there were like 500 men on the base, instructors and students, and 4 women. And we're wearing these flight suits that didn't fit right, and everybody knew who we were, they knew our grades, they knew how we were doing. We were in a test program to see if women could fly like men, which we passed, by the way. And I mean, it was, they knew our voice on the radio. Oh, there's a woman. Everybody clear the sky out. There's a woman out there. So, I mean, there were a lot of jokes about women pilots, but we had to get our own wings, but yet we had to pass as the 4 women and the women at the other bases to prove to the Air Force that women could fly like men. And the program went on for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and like, imagine that, women fly like men, so women are now integrated, which is great. So that was kind of from the military point of view, but I think things have slowly changed since the 1960s. And I hope that the young women today realize, like, don't take it for granted, because there was a time when you could do 4 things. You could be teacher, secretary, nurse, or hairdresser. The 5 things. Because the other one was you could be a sister, like a nun in the religious life. Right. So there was very few things that women could do.
And last thing before I turn over, we've also got Luke here, hope you all know, who is Eileen and Pat's son, brother. To ask both of you, did either of you ever want to be pilots or astronauts, Bridget and Luke?
I was like, not until I was 22. Yeah. It's like,
Now?
Oh, I was like, I would love to. It's like, we're taking orders, but.
Luke, how about you?
Absolutely.
I've always had more of a desire to go on the technical side, on designing like the machines that will take people there or
Right,
potentially help
interesting.
in other applications.
Yeah.
So Luke said, if you didn't hear him, he said he likes to design. Luke's an engineer.
So basically the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because also I think, like, Bridget, you're a driven woman like your mum, aren't you? You kind of enjoy the world work. Maybe?
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I am too. I mean, like you're saying, like, for women now, it's not the same idea, is it, as what your mum was facing?
It doesn't come up.
Yeah. Questions?
Question and a comment. Comment first. it was like halfway through the movie and I had a flashback and remembered my mom has your book, so I'm trying to get the message to go through to her right now. But
Great.
it's like there's not much signal. But my question for you, I love what, like, throughout the film you're talking about maintaining, like, leaders, they stay calm. You don't show like emotion and fear. But my question for you is, when you first enrolled in the flight program and then when you did your first launch, you're calm, but how confident were you in the success?
Yeah, her question was how confident was I?
How confident?
I do not credit myself. I credit the training, because the training that we got in the military, which immediately you start emergency procedures. Like as soon as you start learning how to run a checklist, you start learning emergency procedures. Engine fire, cabin, loss of cabin pressure, oil, engine seizure, all kinds of, like you're stuck in the weather. We learn, the way you learn how a system works is learning how it fails. And it was the same way on the space shuttle side. We would learn malfunctions, emergencies, we'd memorize checklists, we would always think about how could this thing fail. So I think the training is what gave me confidence. I would have been scared to death launching on the space shuttle if I had not been through training, because it is a full body, massive experience. You got all the shaking going on, you got lights flashing in the window, it sounds like you're in a room on fire, and the shaking, like in first stage, you couldn't write anything. It'd be a big mess because your hand's going all over the place. And then you got the G-force on you as you're being hurled into space. I mean, that would make anybody like lose their mind.
What is the
So we
G-force
trained.
feel like? What does that feel like?
What does it feel like? I just think five senses. Like you've got, I mentioned the shaking, but let's just take the G-force, for example. And I think that like the Artemis went up today, I think they actually had more G-force than the space shuttle. But we have 3 Gs for the vast majority of the 8.5 minutes. You have a 3 G-force. The vector's going this way because you're laying on your back. And the best way to describe it is like a G-force is like a weight. So if you weigh, let's say 100 pounds on Earth, and you could step on a weight scale during a launch, it would say 300. And that's how much force you have on your body while you're being accelerated. You're trying to escape Earth's gravity. And the other interesting thing is when you go from, when you have MECO, main engine cutoff, MECO, everything immediately starts floating. There's no braking, like you don't get thrown forward, like when you brake in a car and you get thrown. It just immediately goes to zero gravity and everything starts floating. And I remember my checklist pages would fan out, I had tethers floating, I took out my pen, I let go of it and it just floated, just floating in front of me. And the
First time I've been tempted to go to space when you're describing that.
And the last thing, the dust, like dust everywhere, floating in the air, but once the fans kick in, all the dust goes into the filters, so it
God,
actually
because you'd be coughing
cleans
the whole
up.
time.
You would, yeah.
The video would look terrible, everyone just coughing.
And oh, by the way, so I gotta say this, the Earth is round. I have these kids
Now they
telling
really
me
go
that-
to the moon.
And yes, they are going to the moon, and the moon landing was not faked. The moon landing really happened 6 times. It
I
really
was
happened.
questioning that today.
There's
Okay, next question, over here.
Hi,
And then
first of all, thank you so much for paving the way for women pilots and just in leadership in general. As of yesterday, the most senior pilot at United Airlines is a woman, which I think you probably had a little hand in that too, in paving the way for that. But my question is, in the middle of the movie, before you walked out on stage as commander, you said you had to separate the wife, mother part of Eileen and just walk out on the stage as the commander.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that still resonates today?
Yes.
Or is there other advice you would give to women that are seeking leadership positions?
Okay, so there's 2 questions in there. So the first one I'm going to take has to do with humility. I was always afraid that the astronaut thing was going to go to my head, and I was going to get like big ego, big head. I feared that. And for me, I would pray to keep my humility. And one of the ways I did that, and my husband Pat knows this because I used to talk to him about it. So I want to be just Eileen. And then when I go to work, I step into the astronaut role and I be the astronaut. But when I come home, I want to be wife, mother, normal person, go to the park, read books, go jogging, just, you know, and put that part away. The thing, when people see you are the first woman space shuttle commander, they expect you to be like Miss Janeway on the Captain Kirk, and you know, and that's not me, you know. And so the way I handle that is by separating, and that's just something I do. And the second question was advice for women, I think, is
Yeah,
what
do you think that still resonates today, that separation? Of
you know,
your
I don't
identity?
think that would work for everybody, because I think it might not work, because some people, like, I don't think that would work for me. And I think it depends on really your individual person and what kind of job you're in, and are you like the only woman in the room? Are you the leader of a bunch of men, or are there like half women in your, I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. But, you know, I think advice-wise, without a doubt, you gotta be the best you can be at what you do. And look people in the eye,
You've told
make
me
sure that they know you are listening to them.
You've told me the term confident humility. So listen to suggestions. Often as a woman, maybe you'll be thinking, is it a threat? Listen, take it on board. Confidence. You don't have to. You just take it, you listen, and you know.
Yeah, in the reason that when I talk about humility, some people think quiet, shy, like I'm off in the, no, that humility, it's like a strong, confident humility where you can listen to what people have to say and not be threatened by their ideas. Because some bosses are like, no, I don't want to hear your idea, you know, we've tried that before, whatever the reason is, and they shut people down, and that can be life-threatening in the space program. I mean, people will die if you don't listen to, you know, hey, I think there might be a hole in the heat shield, and no one listened, and we lost Columbia.
Two more. Yes, and then. Oh, okay. So 3. So we'll do you, and you. So Chips, you start.
Okay, so you grew up religious, and you still are. Like, did anything change in your perspective of God or religion in your first time to space, second, third, fourth? Like, did that have? How did that affect anything, if it did at all?
Yeah. So his question was on religion, and I do consider myself religious in the sense that I'm not overly like Orthodox type religious, but I think it's important that we go to church and that we listen to the Word of God, because that goes back to humility, I think, and you know, just I want to say all of the little techniques I learned in leadership, I think good things like the 10 Commandments and just things I've learned, I think, through religion. Without, you know, going into a religious speech, I'm not good at that. It's not me. But I always, like today, I prayed and prayed and prayed for our Artemis crew, like, God, please keep them safe. And the same thing when I watched my space shuttle crew go up. I mean, my friends, not just my missions, I'd pray that they would be safe. And so I think, yeah, when you look back at the Earth, and it's so, everything here is so complicated, and it couldn't just happen. I mean, it had to be created somehow. Because you look the other way, it's all like the blackness of space, and here we are in this blue and white ball that's turning, and like gravity keeps our feet stuck to the ground, and you got this thin little atmosphere that's like an eggshell on an egg. It's like 2 miles of air that keeps us breathing, alive. Like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, you know, I don't want to think about it too much, because it's so there's something bigger than ourselves, without a doubt.
Thank you.
So I'll just leave it at that.
In the middle first, and then the back. Thank you.
I do have a question, but first off, Hannah, we talked earlier, and I heard the story a long time ago from Bridget, and I had no idea how much was behind it. So thank you so much. By the way, Pat also one of the world's best cinematographers.
True. Could not have made the movie, by the way, without Pat's home videos. Don't you think?
The way you shared the young Collins family story was absolutely brilliant.
Great. That's you know, with the editor, it's like, so I couldn't have made the film without those videos, Pat, because
So
you
I-
wanted to think that.
So my question for you though is, I heard about something called, I randomly had a conversation with a psychologist who I guess had interviewed a bunch of people who had been to low orbit, and I learned about something called the overview effect. I would love to know, following on Chip's question, actually, what was that like for you to be in the shuttle, looking back on the planet? That is an experience that, only a handful of humans have gotten to do.
Yeah, so the overview effect, I actually had never heard that term until I wrote my book, and I was doing research, until I had written my book, and I was doing research, but, so my first mission didn't happen because it was launched in February, and every time I looked up, I was very busy, I was a rookie, I was behind schedule the whole time, and I was like, first woman, don't make a mistake, and I'm like constantly trying to get caught up, and we landed, and I didn't really see the Earth. Every time I looked out the window, honestly, it was clouds. Every time I looked, I knew the Earth was round, but it was clouds. Now my second mission, which launched in May, I got beautiful views of the Earth, and probably the best experience I had was,
You say it in the film.
I actually talk about this in the film, where I put my face up against the window, like the space shuttle, you flip it upside down most of the time when you're not docked, you're upside down. So you have windows on the ceiling, which are now looking down at the Earth, so you sit on it like a glass bottom boat.
Like the movies.
Which is cool, but the other thing you can do is flip over, you put your face against the window and you go like that, you're floating of course, and you get so close to the window that you can't see the structure around you, and it's like you're just, I say you're just like an angel flying over the planet. And the guys say, I'm a Greek god. And I go, no, I'm an angel. No, I'm a Greek god. And then you're flying over the planet and you look down and it's like just incredible how beautiful
So
the
is
Earth
that
is.
the overview effect? Or?
It's, well, no, the overview, it's like you go to a different level in how you think. Instead of like every day, okay, I drive to work, I got a red light, somebody cut in front of me, oh, I forgot my toothbrush, and I forgot this, you're constantly thinking about your job. Well, when you're up in space, you're like, there's a lot more going on. We're on this ball that's turning and revolving around the sun, and there's like, how many, 8 billion people on the planet, and like everybody's going through their own little life's issues, and it's almost like overwhelming to try to think of that level. It's just too much. So I just think about how pretty it is out there in the clouds, and then when you go over the dark side of the Earth, you always see lightning. There's always lightning around the equator, and just it's beautiful. I mean, the Earth is, I say that space tourism is going to be extremely successful, and people Bridget's age and my son Luke's age, they will have, most of you here, will have a much better chance of going into space than my generation, because it's going to be, you start
Would
seeing
you want to, Bridget and Luke, as space tourists?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the way, I wouldn't at all. It's terrifying. I don't want to risk it, thanks.
It's going to be very successful. People will love it.
Last question, and then we'll.
What is the funniest story from space?
Oh, I can tell. Wait, you want to hear my ice cream story?
There we go.
I mean, there's a lot of funny ones, but I'll try to make it short. So it was my second mission, and we docked with the Mir Space Station, which is the Russian space station. And there were two cosmonauts over there, Vasily Sableyev and Sasha Lazutkin. The typical, I want to say, astronauts, we all got along really well. I know they were Russian, but we were still more alike than we weren't. So we had an experiment that was had a freezer as part of the experiment. And at the end of the mission, we put the samples in the freezer and bring them home. But the freezer went up empty. So the researchers said, the freezer is going up empty. Would you guys like some ice cream to take up? And so we're like, yeah, we'll take some ice cream up. So we get up in space, and this freezer had like 100 of those little ice cream things with the wooden spoon. There's like 100 of them in there. And there's only 7 of us. And we're like, oh my, why did they do that? And the other thing is, you don't want sweets in space. You want salty food, because in space you're not burning a lot of calories, so you really don't want calories. You get dehydrated, so you want salty stuff. So nobody wanted the ice cream. And now it's like one day before undocking, and our commander, Charlie Precourt, says, no one's eating the ice cream. Eat that ice cream. And we went, yes, sir. Nobody ate it. And then we're like 5 hours from undocking, and he's like, no, he goes, I order you to eat that ice cream. And so I got one of them, and I'm like, ugh. So, what what we did? Nobody wanted it. We gave it to the Russians, and they ate the whole thing. Really, they loved it. See, we had only been up in space for maybe 10 days, but they had been up there for months. And they want to have had ice cream, and there's a couple other stories too, but that's
Thank
not
you.
to end on.
Trojan horse is Bluebell, is what you're saying?
Which
Yeah.
I said Putin's Trojan horse is Bluebell, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, you know, I don't know what it was. I don't know what kind of ice cream it was. I probably have a picture somewhere.
Thank you very much all for coming, and